Welcome to the USA Friendship Quilt series. You might wonder how this started. Well, on my Facebook group, one day I had been looking at pictures of quilts of the United States, and I thought they were really kind of neat. So I kind of mentioned in the group, gee, I wish I had a piece of fabric from every state in the country. Wouldn't that be a unique quilt? Well, no sooner said than done. Within minutes, people were volunteering to send me a scrap of fabric from their state. It was wonderful, and now I was getting really excited to put this all together. But then the inevitable happened. People started saying, well, are you going to make this a class? So I thought, well, yeah, I guess I could do that. And then the next question led to, well, we'd like to have fabric from all states of the country as well. So I said, well, I guess we could do that too. So we opened up a sister Facebook page so that we could do a fabric swap. And that's where we're at now. We're ready to do the lesson. So sit back, enjoy, and I hope you have fun putting your map together. Now you should know by now that we won't leave you behind. If you didn't read about the post in Facebook and you didn't know about the fabric swap, that's no problem. Just dig into your stash and find some fabrics to work with, and you can join right in with us. Now I'm going to put in a disclaimer here as far as printing out these patterns. In order to get the exact size of the patterns that I'm giving you, I suggest strongly that you use Adobe Reader versus any other form to make sure you're getting actual sizes. I've tested and these work the best. When you get ready to print out, this is the screen that you'll get with the Adobe Reader, and it gives you the option to print in actual size. You want to make sure that this is what you're selecting, actual size, before printing. Otherwise, you'll get disastrous results. Adobe Reader is a free program, and it can be downloaded at the address I gave you in the beginning screen, and it's available for both PC and Mac. You have been provided with 4 sheets of the 50 states. Now you'll notice that they are mirror imaged so that when you're ready to fuse your fabric to these applique shapes, you don't have to worry about flipping them around. That's already been taken care of for you. So the next thing we're going to do, instead of tracing them, we're going to apply them to the back of our under to save us a lot of time. Using a glue stick, we have glued the templates to the back of the under on the paper side of the under. This will eliminate the need to have to trace each individual state and will greatly save a lot of time. Normally, when working with paperback fusible web, you get your patterns like I provided you with for all the states, and then you put those underneath the fusible web, and I've made them dark enough that you really don't even need a light box, but then you would begin the tedious process of tracing all of these states onto the fusible web and trying very hard to trace them accurately and to stay on the line. Now, This takes a lot of time, and if you're anything like me, it becomes very boring. So that's one state. Now what if, instead of doing all that tracing, we already have the design shapes, right? What if we take the easy way out? Sometimes shortcuts don't work out so well. Other times, shortcuts can be used to your advantage. Now this is a product that I'm using. It's called Wonder Under, and I prefer this product because it leaves a light adhesive film on your fabric, so it doesn't make your fabric very stiff. I'm going to take my glue stick and I'm just going to slather glue stick all over the back of this printout. You want to make sure that you're getting it clear up to the edges so it holds well during this process. And if you want to be doubly safe, you can go in the opposite direction. So I have a grid work of glue stick going on. Now I don't know whether you could see the sheen from that or not, but it's pretty well covered. So now I'm going to take this and I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to glue it down to my Wonder Under paper. The next thing we need to do after that's done is we're going to cut the pieces apart. And by the way, the Wonder Under is 17 inches wide. So being that we're working with sheets of paper that are 8.5 inches apiece, when you put them together, that gives you your 17 inches, so it perfectly fits across the width of your Wonder Under, which prevents a lot of waste. You'll notice that I've also put the state shapes close together, again, to eliminate waste. And now that we have gotten it to that part, we're ready to start cutting the states up. And then after that's done, we'll match it to the fabrics. So right now, we don't have to do accurate cutting. We just want to cut the states apart being careful not to cut off. So there's one, and I can cut this excess off down here and this excess right here. And what we're going to do is, after these are all cut out, we'll fuse these to our fabrics. So proceed to cut out your states, leave a little bit of room in between each one, but just get rid of the excess. Because we do want to do something else with the remainder of the fabric that we've gotten for each state. Remember, it's a 5-inch square. So we're only using, in the case of Nevada, we're only using up about 2.5 by 4-inch piece. So we'll be able to do something else with the remaining. So make sure that you do trim a good amount away from the state without cutting right on the lines. Some of the smaller states, for example, here we have Connecticut. I wasn't able to put the state name inside the piece because it was so small. So you'll see the name of the state with a line drawing to that piece. When you trim that out, you have to remember what state that is, so we don't want to cut that away. So what we're going to do is we're just going to carefully trim around like so. Trim around like so. And when we get ready to press this onto the fabric, before we press it down, we'll trim this part off. But right now, I know by looking at this piece that it's Connecticut. You'll notice when you get to Michigan, there's a Michigan 1 and a Michigan 2. This is the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. So when you get to those two, just lightly tape the two pieces together so that when you're cutting out your fabric for Michigan, you don't forget one of them. Now comes the fun part, matching up the states with the fabric that was sent for that state. So here I have Oklahoma. So I'm going to go into my PAL, and there's Oklahoma. And I'll match those together. And I'll continue on until I get all the templates matched up to the fabric. Now my states have all been matched up to the fabric that you all generously donated so that I could make this very special friendship quilt of the United States. The next step will be taking this over to the ironing board and fusing the applique to the back of the fabric. We're now ready for the next phase of this project, and that is fusing the applique shapes to the back of the fabrics. So I had them all arranged. Here's the fabric that I was sent for Oklahoma. So the first thing I want to do is to give the fabric a good press so there's no creases in the area that I'm working. Now you can see that this is going to take up very little of this fabric, but I'm still going to place it not on the selvage edge, but I'm going to place it so that I get maximum use out of this piece of fabric, because we are going to use it for the borders. So at this point, I have my iron set on a hot setting and no steam. I'm going to press down and hold it for between 5 to 8 seconds. And now it's fused. I'm going to continue on with that for the rest of the states, and then we'll start the process of cutting out the applique shapes. Now we're ready for the final trimming. Everything is fused. Remember, you're going to fuse it to the back of your fabric. And now as we trim, we want to stay just on the outside edge of this black line, leaving just the finest of white visible. And that will help to ensure that our pieces will fit without any gaps in between. So you can see I have the finest of white lines there. Hopefully you can see that. Not a lot, just enough that when we put these pieces together, they're going to connect without leaving a gap. So this is the part where you need to take your time You've saved all kinds of time on tracing. It didn't take long to fuse. And now we're ready to cut out the final pieces. And this is the piece that will make up your quilt. So it doesn't take long. This is a great project to do while watching TV, but you do want to take your time and make sure that you're cutting it accurately. And there's your first state. We're going to take the excess fabric and set it aside because we're going to use it later. Because we have mirror imaged these templates, when it comes time to actually putting it in our quilt and we flip it over to the right side, you can see how it fits perfectly. And that's what we're wanting. So go ahead and trim out the rest of your pieces, put them in a safe place, and we'll come back and work on it some more.